Wojtek, the bear who went to war. In the chaos of World War II, among soldiers, tanks, and gunfire, there was a bear, not a symbol, not a nickname, a real bear. His name was Wojtek, and he served in World War II. It was 1942. Polish soldiers had been released from Soviet labor camps. They were weak, starving, and far from home. Germany had invaded Poland. Their country was burning. Their families were scattered. These men had nothing left except each other. As they traveled through the Middle East, exhausted and uncertain about their future, they met a young Iranian boy. In his arms was a small, frightened bear cub. The boy had found the cub after hunters killed its mother. The cub was alone, hungry, helpless. The Polish soldiers looked at the tiny animal. It was shaking, just like them. They bought the cub from the boy. They didn't know why. Maybe they saw themselves in it. Maybe they needed something innocent in the middle of a brutal war. They named him Wojtek, which means happy warrior. At first, he was small enough to carry in their arms. They fed him condensed milk from a bottle. They wrapped him in blankets at night. He slept beside them in tents. For the first time in months, the soldiers smiled. Wojtek grew quickly, very quickly. Soon, he wasn't just a cub. He was a massive Syrian brown bear, but he never forgot the men who saved him. He followed them everywhere. He learned to stand upright. He wrestled with the soldiers playfully. He loved eating fruit, bread, honey, and sometimes even shared their rations. He also developed unusual habits. He drank water from bottles like a human. He rode in military trucks. He even learned to salute when greeted. Wojtek wasn't a pet anymore. He was one of them. As the war intensified, the Polish unit was reassigned to Italy. But there was a problem. Animals were not allowed on British military transport ships. The soldiers refused to leave Wojtek behind. So they did something incredible. They officially enlisted him. Wojtek became a registered private in the Polish Army's 22nd Artillery Supply Company. He had a service number. He received rations. He even had his own paybook. The bear was now a soldier. In 1944, the unit took part in one of the most brutal battles of the war, the Battle of Monte Cassino. The mountain was heavily defended by German forces. Allied troops had tried multiple times to capture it. They failed. The fighting was relentless. Shells exploded across rocky hills. Gunfire echoed through the valleys. Men fell every day. The Polish unit was tasked with supplying ammunition to frontline artillery positions. It was dangerous work. Heavy crates of artillery shells had to be carried up steep terrain under enemy fire. The soldiers were exhausted. And then something remarkable happened. Wojtek started helping. He watched the men carry wooden crates. He mimicked them. He stood on his hind legs and lifted ammunition boxes with his powerful paws. Each crate weighed around 45 pounds. Wojtek carried them one by one without dropping a single shell, up the mountain, through gunfire, through chaos, again and again. The soldiers were stunned. The bear who once drank milk from a bottle was now carrying ammunition in one of the bloodiest battles of the war. He never panicked. He never ran away. He worked beside them, calm, focused, strong. His presence lifted morale. In the middle of destruction, there was something extraordinary. A bear fighting alongside men. The Polish unit eventually captured Monte Cassino. It was a turning point, and Wojtek had become a legend, so much so that the 22nd Company changed its official emblem. It now showed a bear carrying an artillery shell. Wojtek wasn't just their mascot, he was their brother in arms. When the war ended, victory felt bittersweet. Poland had suffered deeply. Many soldiers could not return home because their country had fallen under Soviet control. They were relocated to Scotland. Wojtek went with them. But the army was disbanded, and eventually Wojtek had to retire. He was placed in Edinburgh Zoo. It was a difficult transition. The wild mountains of Italy were replaced with enclosures. The soldiers visited him often. When they called his name in Polish, he responded. He stood up. He recognized their voices. They would throw him cigarettes. He didn't smoke them, but he would chew them playfully, just like during the war. Visitors were amazed when they learned his story. A bear, a real enlisted soldier, a veteran of Monte Cassino. Years passed. The soldiers grew older. The war became history, but Wojtek remained a symbol, not of violence, not of war, but of loyalty, brotherhood, and resilience. He died in 1963, but his story didn't. Statues were built in his honor, in Poland, in Scotland, in Italy. His image, a bear carrying a shell, became eternal. Wojtek's story is unbelievable, yet completely true. In a world filled with hatred and destruction, a bear brought comfort. In a time when men lost faith, he gave them something to smile about. He reminded them of humanity when the world felt inhuman. He carried more than ammunition. He carried hope. And perhaps that's why his story survives. Because sometimes the most powerful heroes don't speak. They simply stand beside you when everything else falls apart. In the darkest moments of World War II, among fear and fire, there was a bear. Not trained for battle, not born for war, but loyal enough to carry the weight of it. And that is why Wojtek, the bear who went to war, will never be forgotten.